Media.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. What an election night last night. I mean, we had the Oilers going for the Stanley Cup Finals and an important by-election being held in Toronto now, or I guess St. Paul's. But more importantly, even though we lost a hockey game, last night freedom prevailed for the country of Canada. The democratic process has worked in favor of Canadians. Now, I will say that I was up very late last night speculating as to whether or not we were going to see legitimate results, whether we were going to see a little bit of tomfoolery going on in shenanigans when it comes to the votes, and we still may as time goes on. However, Jon Stewart has taken the candidacy of Toronto St. Paul's in the by-election. He has accepted the win, and we've seen Church step down. More importantly, what that means is Canada's future. And I want to get into that today because it's very, very important. If we look at 338 Canada, take a look at the Conservatives' polls here. 42 plus 4%, so they're sitting at 46%, again, still projected with a possible 209 seats of a majority government. Liberals are down 3% to only 24% support. We've seen the NDP dropping as well, although it says here that they tend to be up. The Bloc tends to be up, but again, they're only looking at roughly 15 to 36 seats. The Liberals are down 70 seats at 50 to 98 seats. I mean, this is insanity. Now, what does this mean for Justin Trudeau? Well, this was a long time held, over 3 decade held constituency for the Liberals. It was almost a shoo-in for them, and one that's critical when it comes to the federal election. If you know a lot about Canadian politics, you know that when it comes time to vote, when the federal election is counted, well, it's based on per capita. And when you look in that bottom corner of Ontario going into Quebec, essentially that is the battleground for where every election is decided as to who is going to be Prime Minister of Canada. Looks evident to me. People spoke out last night and have stated enough is enough. Everyone's looking for a change, even after 3 decades. Justin Trudeau has broke Canada so much that we're seeing an electoral revolution of sorts. Now, if we look over at the Toronto Star, even left-leaning prostitute sites like the Toronto Star reporting out Trudeau's Liberals head into summer with the lowest share of committed voters since they were elected in 2015. Again, the local 338 shows the same, as we just took a look at the statistics. Now, I've often said on this channel that when it comes to mainstream prostitute sites, keep in mind this article was put out before the by-election, in fact, 5 days before the by-election. This is insanity. I want to get into this article that came out in regards to the Conservative win in St. Paul because it paints a picture, as even CBC having to acknowledge the harsh reality that Justin Trudeau's time is, in fact, at an end, that this was the final nail in the coffin. Again, this is a major riding. For anybody who doesn't understand what this means, people say, well, it's just a by-election, it's 1 MP. No, this is a major, major upset, even if it was only by 500 votes. If this riding was to go, how many more are going to slip through the Liberals' fingers when it actually comes time for a federal election? Stunning result raises questions about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's future. Conservative candidate Jon Stewart has won longtime federal Liberal stronghold of Toronto St. Paul's, a stunning result that raises question about Justin Trudeau's future. Stewart's victory is shocking because the seat has been held by the Liberals for over 30 years. Even though the party's past low points, such as 2011 federal election that returned just 34 Liberal MPs to Parliament. Before Monday's vote, a Conservative candidate hadn't been competitive in St. Paul's since the 1980s. Again, almost 40 years since there was even a competitive. This is the equivalency of a Liberal getting voted in Alberta. Major. The party hadn't won a seat in urban Toronto since 2011's federal election. Monday's result was a nail-biter to the very end. For more than 7 hours of counting, Liberal candidate Leslie Church was in the lead, but with 189 of 192 polls reporting, the lead flipped to Stewart. The final batch of votes, posted around 4:30 in the morning Eastern Time, delivered the seat to Stewart and a major breakthrough to Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. In the end, Stewart, a consultant, claimed victory with about 42% of the vote against Church, a former Parliament Hill staffer and lawyer who took roughly 40% of the ballots cast. Now, again, important to know, Leslie Church was also a staffer who worked under Mr. Speaker Chrystia Freeland, and she was essentially a shoo-in. They thought this was under their belt. They thought that they had this. In fact, they were pretty confident going into yesterday's by-election. Things were going to sway in their direction, and very well so. I've seen a number of live streams trying to stay up late into the wee hours of the morning, live streaming the results, and most people were convinced at that point that the Liberals were going to just inch enough ahead to seize the seat, and well, woke up this morning to some of the greatest news of all time. The Liberals' poor showing in a stronghold like this could prompt some soul-searching for Justin Trudeau, who has seen his popularity plummet as inflation, the cost of living crisis, high home prices, and surging immigration levels drive voter discontent. Now, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good time for a shameless plug as we go into what could possibly be an early next federal election, and I'm going to get into that. I wanted to let everybody know that within about the next 48 to 72 hours, our newest book, Just Axe the Tax, a parody of Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham, is on its way out. If you've read our award-winning and best-selling books such as How the Prime Minister Stole Freedom, this is going to be a great book going into the next federal election. It touches on a lot of what Pierre's campaign is and a lot of what Canada needs for change. We've got some funny insights in the book and a little bit of truth coming forward as to what Canada so desperately needs. The reason I wanted to plug this book is to remind everybody that, of course, every time Unacceptable Fringe launches a new book, we always try to do something charitable. Now, one thing I'll be doing in alliance with Pierre Poilievre's message and platform, essentially, is we're going to take a portion of proceeds and essentially donate them to local Calgary food banks where I live, to kind of give people support at a time when they can't afford to eat, when they can't afford any kind of real groceries or real ways to get ahead. So the better this book does, the better people in need benefit. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, we do the same thing on live streams when we set goals for viewers, which you should join us every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe on our channel. Anytime I get super chats, anytime we bring anything into the channel, it's always donated in portion to food banks, again, to help those in need. So again, keep your eyes peeled. I'll be making an announcement when this is available, but it should be within the next 2 days. So keep your eyes peeled. Again, on Amazon, that will be available for purchase. I'm looking forward to bringing this one to you guys. We put a lot of care, and it could possibly be our final book in our series. So keep your eyes peeled. Again, as we go back to the article, the Conservative upset is likely to lead to anxiety in the Liberal caucus because such a dramatic vote swing could put other supposedly safe seats in play for the Conservatives in the next general election. As I mentioned earlier, how many more ridings like this, if this is such a critical one, are going to slip through Trudeau's fingers? The outgoing Liberal MP, Carolyn Bennett, beat her Conservative opponent by some 24 points in this riding in 2021. Again, during the fear election that I always call it, during lockdowns, Church lost by about 2 points. Again, very close race, but it speaks volumes. And we're going to get into why I believe Trudeau is going to step down. If not, call an election. It's going to be one of the two. I don't believe he has a choice at this point. With the ballot still being counted at 12:30 a.m., Toronto St. Paul's Liberal candidate Leslie Church speaks to supporters of her by-election campaign, saying it was going to take a while until a result. If that same sort of vote swing was applied to other ridings in the province, dozens of Liberal MPs could lose their seats in the next election. Roughly 55 Liberal MPs won their Ontario ridings by a smaller margin than what Bennett posted here in Toronto St. Paul's in the last general election, according to CBC News analysts of the past election data. So again, that's critical. 55 MPs that are sitting in that small bracket of nail-biting votes to put them essentially in a position to keep their seat or lose their seat. I think it's going to be the latter. I think we're going to see a lot of Liberals losing their seats, of course, in the next election. As Jasper Sunshine always says, it's over. And I believe this is the beginning of the end. The Liberal Party deployed heavy hitters like Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland and a dozen other cabinet members in the riding to show up to Church's support, but in the end, it wasn't enough. 9 hours ago, at the time of filming this video, Toronto St. Paul's Conservative candidate Don Stewart takes questions from reporters, then delivers a speech thanking his reporters as ballots still being counted in the by-election. Voters in the riding told CBC News throughout the campaign that the government's handling of the housing crisis, inflation, and Israel-Hamas conflict were sore spots. Again, we've seen the outpouring of, I guess you could say, pro-Palestinian protests that are getting out of hand. In especially Toronto streets, we've seen violence, we've seen threats, we've seen people being attacked across the country for merely going out in the streets and trying to express their concern for what's going on. This isn't the Canada I grew up in, and it looks like voters tend to agree. It wasn't just about the issues. A number of voters expressed a desire for change with fatigue with Trudeau. Even past and present Liberal supporters told CBC News that Trudeau should resign as leader if the party loses this one-time ruby red Liberal seat. And again, this is where it brings me to kind of our wrap-up on this, kind of where I think Trudeau stands or won't be standing when this is all said and done. This is a major blow to Liberals. This is an over 3-decade held stronghold that the Liberals essentially lost to a candidate that shouldn't have had the kind of pull that it did. Even though I'm happy to see his win, this is the writing on the wall going into the next federal election. And I know that the party in particular will be pressuring Trudeau at this point to step down. Keep in mind, it's not just Justin Trudeau's decision whether or not he remains leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. The party can essentially request his resignation. And if a party starts to fold, starts to crumble, if you see MPs not even propping up or supporting their own prime minister and leader, well, that's just going to do more damage to their numbers. That's just going to ruin more seats. We've seen Justin Trudeau trying to extend to the next election in order for a number of MPs to get their pensions. But what I think is that it's not going to matter at this point. I don't think Justin Trudeau has a choice. We will either see a new Liberal leader come in, or my guess at this point, due to pressure, is that as early as fall, we may see an election called. Again, high probability that it won't happen, but never say never. I think that the pressure, again, is going to be surmounting, especially over the summer while MPs are touring the country, getting their message out, meeting with citizens, hearing what people have to say, and the polls are only going to go up from there for the Conservatives by the look of it, as Pierre Poilievre is producing strong results that his Conservatives are set to, as he says, bring it home and axe the tax, as our books tend to say. But let me know what you guys think down below. Is Justin Trudeau going to step down? Do you think that this goes beyond his hubris, that he's going to be forced into a position to step down? Or do you think he's going to be forced into calling an early election? Let me know what you guys think. I think it's going to be one of the two. I certainly don't think that we're going to draw out to the next election, or that Trudeau will survive to the next election if that be the case. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure to click that subscribe button, turn on your bell for notifications. Join us live again every Friday here on the channel for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, where we go over everything that happened this week in politics. This will be definitely a hot topic to talk about this week. And we have a little bit of back and forth with the community. It's always great to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos. I always look forward to chatting with you guys and hearing what you have to say in our live audience. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there, and hope you had a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.